Hi, it's me. And this is a cinema camera. It's an FX3 and it's rigged out with a whole bunch of stuff and it looks very cool and very nice. But that begs the question, do you actually need a rig like this for the majority of film jobs in the industry? It's an interesting question. Now, I don't want this video to be one of those, the gear you needed was in your heart all along. Just pick up your phone and go film a video, because that's not helpful. And the real answer, I think, is it depends on the job, which is true, but also not helpful. So I'm going to break down a few real-world jobs that I did last year and tell you the exact gear and combinations of equipment that I used for those jobs based off the client's expectations, hopefully to give you a better idea of what us filmmakers mean when we say it depends on the job. I hope this video will be helpful if you're looking to build out a cinema rig like this, but keep in mind, I'm very new to this industry too, so if you have any thoughts on these things, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I got the idea for this video from a comment on a previous video that I made, so it's a very helpful place to share information, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Welcome to Determined to Fail. My name's BJ, and in this video we're talking all things camera equipment. It's going to be fun. Let's get into it. All right, let's do this. I've selected a wide variety of jobs that I did last year to give you hopefully the broadest spectrum I can on the different kind of work that I do. And all of these are professional gigs. Not all of them are paid. Some of them were free jobs for people, but they're all sort of work professional shoots. And at the end, I'll also give you some examples of personal projects, which differ in a few different ways. So we'll get to that. And of course, I'm just one person. So if you have any stories or thoughts that you'd like to add in the comment section, that'd be amazing. Let's keep this sort of sharing of things going, would be great. Once we get to the end of the list, I'm going to give you some pros and cons of the whole cinema rig, like as a unit, but we'll get to that. All right, let me read you the little descriptions that I put down. So these are the client's expectations and kind of a description of this is the shoot, this is what we're hoping to achieve. Job 1 is a product launch shoot in a small indoor venue, available light only, high quality content for a promo edit, shot in landscape 4K, as well as vertical content for a quick turnaround social media edit. This was for a brand that was launching a new product and they had this kind of setup in like a small bar / art gallery area, and they needed some footage for that. So the gear I took with me, I had the full FX3 rig. I had the 24-70 Sigma lens on the front, and I was trying to get lots of nice shallow depth of field focus racking moments to showcase the products and all of the decorations that they'd used, as well as just a bunch of footage of people smiling and laughing. And, you know, it was a really cramped space. So I'm really glad I went with a handheld rig. I think a gimbal in there would have been way too difficult because it was a small space with a lot of people. And so I was really trying to like zoom in on the 70mm and then just try and find gaps between people. I also had my Osmo Pocket 3 in my pocket, literally, to shoot vertical content for an Instagram reel because they wanted that the next day or the same day, I forget. So what we did was I shot a bunch of vertical stuff on the Osmo and then handed that straight to an editor that night. This is the kind of thing that a handheld rig is really great for because it's super versatile, it's easy, it's quick. Yeah, great. For job number 2, let me read you my description. Job number 2 was a dance concept video shot on location, run and gun production using natural light only, multiple outdoor locations. It was about a 5-hour shoot, not including the setup time. This was, I think, one of the last projects I did before I got the FX3, and probably one of my favorites from last year. Super creative, super fun, very artistic. I love dancing, I love filmmaking, and like problem solving on the go, and you know, filming outside is super fun. If you're not familiar with that term, a concept video is basically just a music video. It's just someone choreographs some movement to a song and then films it and turns it into a dubbed video. Probably my favorite thing to shoot just because it's so creative and so fun. The gear I used for this shoot was the FX30 with the Sigma 24-70. So equivalent on the FX30, it's about a 36-105, I think. I think this was the first shoot I used that lens on, actually. I've had that on the gimbal with my follow focus motor as well. And the issue I ran into here is the Sigma 24-70 is a really big lens, and the follow focus on the front had the center of mass like way too far forward. So my gimbal motor was really having to struggle to keep up because it wasn't perfectly balanced. And because it was a 5-hour shoot, my gimbal battery ran out. I was not really ready for that because I've done much longer shoots and not had a gimbal battery problem. But because it was trying to fight the lens, that was an issue. So the last hour of the shoot, I ended up having to do handheld, which was very scary because I had to have it match, trying to hold the camera really still or put it on the ground when I could or whatever. I don't think I had a tripod with me, which wasn't a problem until the gimbal ran out. I have since figured out how to fix that. I just need to not use the focus motor. That gets enough weight off the front that it balances, and I can use the FX3 and that Sigma lens on the gimbal, and it's fine. I'm using I think it's the DJI RS3, not the Pro version. Probably if you had the Pro version, it's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit heavier, it would probably be fine. The other thing I had for this shoot was my ND filter. I've got a really nice Polar Pro 82mm ND filter that fits my Sigma lens, which is my biggest lens. That was a must-have for this shoot. We were shooting outdoors in the sun all day. It was very bright, so using that was very cool. If I'd had the FX3 at the time, I would have used that for this, but I didn't pick that up until a month or two after this shoot. Can't really tell the difference. It's still 4K, it's still 10-bit, just slightly less depth of field, and because it was during the day, I didn't have to worry about the low light capability or anything like that. Definitely a favorite, so fun, loved it. Shout out to Shihov for booking me on that one, because so cool. What's next? I've lost my place. The next job is very, very similar to this. It was an indoor dance concept video contemporary shoot. Basically the same thing. I used the FX3 this time because I had that with the 24-70. But this time I had my Shinobi monitor mounted to the gimbal, which was awesome. So helpful, especially because I couldn't use the focus motor because of the larger lens and I didn't want to overbalance things. So good. I will forever now use the Shinobi with my gimbal because it was great. It doesn't really get in the way. I just sort of mount it off to the side. It does add a bit of weight, but it's not the end of the world. And for that shoot, we were indoors, so I could put the camera down when I needed to, and it was fine. Very similar setup. I also had some lighting gear with me as well. From memory, I had an Aperture 300D, a 300C, and 4 Nanlite like Pavo tubes. Which is the standard kit that I borrow from one of the other filmmakers that I work with. The description for this one was a dance concept video shot in a studio with controlled lighting. I had to provide the lighting myself. It was a 4-hour indoor shoot, including setup and pack down. Again, this is another one of my favorite shoots that I did last year. I'm gonna get some of those Pavo tubes one day when I have money and I don't have other things to buy because they're really helpful. Moving into a slightly different world, we're going to move on to concerts. I shoot a lot of dance concerts, but this is probably applicable for any kind of concert or live event that you might shoot. Currently, this is what I'm working with. FX3 and FX30 as my A and B cam. I'll switch those around depending on the venue. Sometimes if it's a really long way away and I need to get a little bit more zoomed in for my follow cam, I'll use the APS-C with a full frame lens to just give me a little bit extra distance. I have just recently bought the Sony 70-200, which is going to pretty much fix that problem because I just couldn't quite get close enough for some of them. So I have 2 cameras and 2 tripods, whichever lenses happen to work at the time. I use the Zoom H5, which you saw me holding in the intro clip, to get audio from the desk. So I get there and I ask the audio techs to give me either a monoline or a dual stereo left and right XLR out of the desk. So I get a full mix of all of the music, as well as if they have singing, microphones, they have spoken words, speeches, and I get a feed of all of that into my H5, which I record onto as a backup. And then I take a line out of that into either the FX3 or the FX30 so that the camera is recording that audio. And then on the other camera, I put a shotgun mic to get audience clapping and cheering and those kind of things, which is really great for dancing because when you have a really loud audience and they're like cheering the dancers on, you really want to make sure you can include that in the video as well. Sometimes I'll bring the Shinobi monitor as well and just mount that on the tripod so I don't have to look up like right to the top of the camera, which is maybe like quite a bit above me. That's just a quality of life thing. And one thing that I've done is to take the DJI Osmo Pocket and pop it either on the stage or like somewhere near the front row. You can either do this during the show if it's not too disruptive to have a camera right there, or an extra little trick is you can do this with an Osmo, or you can even do it with a camera on a gimbal. If they're going to do a dress rehearsal, you film the dress rehearsal from the front row, either with a stationary camera or a gimbal or something, so that in editing, you have like a front row cam to cut to of the show without actually being there and obstructing the audience's view. I've also thrown my Osmo at the back of the stage. I've thrown it in a wing before when I was on tour, which by the way, I will have a video coming out about the dance tour that I was on earlier this year. that's in the works. Right, I could go on about concerts for ages. If you're interested in a video about how I shoot concerts in detail, maybe we can go into that. But for now, let's move on. All right, next up we have a promo ad that I shot for social media for a friend's company. He has built a gym machine and he wanted to make some promo content. So we did 2 different shoots. One of them was for an ad that we made. That one I shot on the FX30, 16-55 on the gimbal, because that's all I had at the time. And it was really good. We got lots of like sweeping, orbiting shots. Super easy, pretty much just all available light, I think. It was great. I got everything I needed. I was super happy with the video. They were super happy. We had a actor record a voiceover that I put underneath. Music, sound effects, great, love it. Then a few months later, we came back and we did a second shoot where he just wanted some extra footage that he could use to make his own Instagram reels. The second time I used, let me get this right. Yes, I used my FX3 rig with the 24-70. I think this was the first time I actually used the whole rig setup. And it was great. We went for a little bit more of that kind of unsteady, shaky, like action movie type look, partially because I just wanted to try out the rig and also because they had nice, smooth, buttery gimbal footage already. So we thought we'd go for something different. In terms of the quality of the footage, the gimbal was definitely smoother. And we had some really nice tracking and panning and dolly shots, which we couldn't have really done handheld, but the handheld rig was way faster and more efficient because you can just hold a camera and move quicker. And I don't know, it's way faster than using a gimbal, but you definitely sacrifice some stability, which depending on the style you're going for is not the end of the world. Yeah, it was interesting to do pretty much the same job twice with a different setup and see how it changed. But in terms of which one I preferred, they were both great. I liked the footage we got from both and they both worked. So it's what you have, really, isn't it? Okay, so I have 2 contrasted behind the scenes product shoots that I did. One was for a tan company, one was for a clothing brand. The first one I shot on a gimbal. The second time I had the handheld rig, so I did that. For this situation, I 100% would recommend the handheld rig. When you're shooting behind the scenes content, it doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. You're not gonna reinvent the wheel in terms of amazing cinematography or anything. All you're trying to do is capture the energy of the people who are there and tell the story of what's going on. When you're filming an event, you can't control how quickly things happen. Something interesting would happen, I'd have to go over, pick up the gimbal, turn it on, make it balance, turn it around, get the focus sorted out. And by that point, the moment has gone. So the second time I had a similar shoot, I brought the handheld rig. I had it on a strap around my neck for most of the day. I could still put it down or put it on a tripod really easily if I wanted to do some tripod stuff. But if I just had it in my hand or just sitting next to me, if something interesting was happening, I just pick it up, turn the camera on, bam, record straight away. I caught so many more moments. I was less tired. It was just easier. So that's a big pro for a handheld rig is it's much faster when you're filming something that's happening live. It's a little shakier. It's maybe not quite as balanced, but for this kind of project where my job was to film the behind the scenes stuff, hands down, much prefer the handheld rig. Later on in the second one, I also shot an interview. So I had the FX30 on a second tripod as a B cam, and I had the full rig just on a tripod set up as the A cam for the FX3. And what did I used the DJI mics with a Rode Lav that I borrowed for the audio of the interview. And yeah. Last but not least, in the commercial shoots section, I have dance classes. So often I will film these classes for people. We usually do a little 5 to 10 second edit at the start that's kind of nice looking footage to give an idea of the energy and people having fun. And then you just film groups of people dancing at the end of the class. So for this, I've gone with pretty much the same setup for quite a while. I just use the FX30. I use this lens, the 16-55 for the start. I usually run around just handheld, just zooming in and getting a nice depth of field, a shot of the teacher laughing, a shot of a student laughing, some slow-mo footage of people dancing from different angles and stuff. Then I will switch to the 11mm that I have, throw the camera on the gimbal, and then just run around with this tiny little lens on a tiny camera, on a little gimbal. It's super light. I use the briefcase handle so I can hold it a little bit lower. And then I just run around and film the dancing. The wide angle lens is super helpful. That's why I bought the 11mm. It's just an 11mm prime f1.8. I use it almost exclusively for dance classes. and it's super helpful. When I first got this camera and I had the 16-55, I was shooting dance classes and I just couldn't get far enough away. Because when you're in a dance studio and you have a group of people that's kind of spreading out and moving forward as they dance, you're never wide enough. Even the 11mm is usually not wide enough to capture everyone, so you have to kind of keep moving to try and get like those two front people in the corner. You know, maybe you get one of them and then you move over and you get the other one. And when I bought that 11mm lens, the people in the Sony shop almost didn't want to sell it to me because they were like, bro, 11mm is so wide. Are you sure you're going to use this lens? And I was like, yes, I will. And I have. I shoot every dance class on it. It's the perfect lens for that. f1.8, so you get heaps of light in if you're shooting in dark studios. Cannot recommend this setup enough. Gimbal, FX30, 11mm, super simple, and then zoom lens for just the artistic shots at the beginning. Real quick lightning round, I'm gonna give you some personal projects that I've shot. When you're shooting your own projects, I usually find they fall into two camps. One of them is, it's just a project for me. I just want to do it quickly and efficiently, and I don't need to worry about the most professional, highest quality footage that I can get. As long as it's captured, it's fine. Or there's no time constraints, there's no budget constraints. I can use whatever gear I like. So I'm going to use the most complicated, most high-tech setup that I can so that when I need it for a commercial shoot, I've had a little bit of experience with that. The first one is this video called The Sun Is In Your Eyes that I shot with my friend Candy. We used the FX3 and the FX30 for a wide and a close-up. No rigs, no monitors, no nothing. We were in the middle of a field. We literally just had the two cameras on two tripods. That was it. Next up, we have the previous video that I made for this channel, which was the little cemetery shoot that we did. We used a bunch of different cameras and a bunch of different stuff, but the main rig that I was using was the FX30 with this 50mm anamorphic lens, purely because I could. I knew that the anamorphic was a difficult, impractical lens to use. I knew the FX30 was not as good a quality as the FX3, but that's an APS-C lens, so I kind of had to use it with this camera, and it was great fun. I had the top handle, I had the monitor, I think I had my V-lock as well. The footage ended up being shakier than I would have liked. I think the ideal version of this would have been to have a gimbal as well that I could have swapped to for some of the bigger movements, because some of the footage, it would be really, really nice, but it's just a bit too shaky because I was trying to walk at the same time. So if I was to redo this shoot, I would probably bring a gimbal and maybe shoot it all or partially on a gimbal instead. 12 hours of Vlogmas. This is another previous video on this channel. Shot the whole thing on the Osmo. I also used this little aperture light to light the darker scenes when I was indoors. Probably the most convenient camera setup ever. I had one Osmo base on a tripod, the other one on the little feet things. I was shooting handheld. I was using the Bluetooth mic thing. Visual quality is not up to the same standard as using my cinema cameras, but it worked. It was simple. It was fast. And I made a video out of it. So it worked. This video that I made with Lint had this really weird FX30 rig. It was too heavy. It was way too heavy for just walking around the streets, and the battery life on the FX30 is so good that I didn't need the V-lock. I could have just had a couple extra batteries in my pocket. We filmed a part 2 for this video, and the second time I stripped the rig right back. I just used just the camera and the 16-55 with the DJI thing on the top. Definitely a lesson in sometimes you can bring too much gear and it's just too heavy and unnecessary. Camera strap, super helpful for that kind of thing because you can hang it around your neck when you're walking. All right, next up we have Extraordinary Machine. This is a fun little nonsense film that I made with my cousin. Shot the whole thing on the FX30 using the Shinobi monitor just on a tripod. And for some reason, I shot the whole thing in 4K 8-bit and then ended up doing all this crazy color grading. So 10-bit would have been really helpful. So next time I shoot something like that, we'll do it in 10-bit. Other than that, totally fine. It's a camera on a tripod. You can't go wrong. Finally, we have the lights film that I made with Annalise. This was using a vintage, actually I have it here, vintage 28mm Pentax photography lens shot on the FX30. And this video would have been much better if it was shot on the FX3 full cinema rig. The mini rig I had just wasn't quite heavy enough, and I don't think I had a strap, so it was just too shaky. And the sun set before we had even started shooting, so just there's a lot of noise. The FX30 tries really hard in low light, but it just couldn't cut it. The film was still made, it was totally fine, but the better stabilization from a heavier rig and using the amazing low light capacity of the FX3 would have like changed the game on this shoot. It would have been way better. So that's a good example of more gear would have helped in that scenario. And I have one more little bonus example for you, which is just my Twitch live streaming setup. I have two cinema cameras. I have an old Canon DSLR and I have the Osmo, and I don't use any of those for live streaming. Instead, I just use this as like $100 Logitech webcam, and it works fine. And the reason I use it is because it's convenient. And it works. When I live stream, I don't want to set up a cinema camera, which is all packed up in its case, charged, ready to go for a film shoot, to then try and rig it behind a monitor. Like, no, I want a camera that's just always there, that when I want to live stream or I want to jump on a Zoom call or something, it's just there. And I just turn it on. I do have a nice audio setup. I have a Rode Procaster going into a mixer, and audio is much more helpful. I also record podcasts here sometimes and voiceovers for videos. So having good audio is much more helpful. The webcam is not even on a proper mount. It's on a magic arm that's gripped to the light stand. Like if it's stupid and it works, it's still stupid, but you'll get away with it. So a real quick pros and cons of the full cinema rig. The pros are it's modular and super adaptable, which means you can rig it in lots of different ways and have it be adaptable for lots of different projects, which is super important. It looks really cool. It has a screen, which is very, very helpful. It has heaps of power with the V-Lok, so you can record for a whole day and not worry about running out of power. It's heavy and stable, so you don't get too many of those light jitters. It's awesome for anything like gym videos, action videos, short films where there's like a fight scene or you want a bit more like dynamic camera movement. It's super quick to change the angle, super convenient, and you can put it on a tripod really quick and you've got everything there that you could possibly need. The cons are I really need a shoulder mount. There's been a few shoots where I've had the handheld rig and it's working great, but it's just too heavy and I just want to be able to put it on my shoulder, take some of the weight, or rig it a little bit higher. If I need a higher camera angle, I'm kind of awkwardly doing this because if I rest it on my shoulder, then the screen's back here and I can't see it. At the time of writing the script, I did not have a rig situation to use the audio top handle. However, I did work it out the other day that if I put the audio top handle on, I can mount my monitor to the side handle. Works well, it's convenient. I can still get the monitor down low enough that it's not sticking up and looking silly. I just need a shotgun mic to put in the audio top handle, and then I've got a really solid multi-channel audio setup as well. Having a follow focus for it would be great. Sometimes reaching around the front to like focus this way can be awkward if you've got a big base there. Your hand kind of hits it. The USB pass-through power for the FX3 doesn't seem to quite work. When I go USB-C out of the V-Lok into the FX3, it charges the battery, but it doesn't power the camera on its own. It just kind of makes the battery go down slower, and then when you turn the camera off, it tops it up. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if it's a voltage thing or if I need a DTAP cable or something. An easy rig would be great for more stability and also to take the weight down, and I can't fit my handheld rig on a gimbal. If I had a massive gimbal, sure. Again, it's like either you shoot handheld or you shoot on a gimbal, so it's not really a big deal. You usually would pick depending on the project. Because I've got quick release plates and stuff, it's not too slow to just switch over. And at the end of the day, that is why I went for the FX3 and FX30 over any other cameras. For example, and I have my notes here, an FX9 is amazing and it has heaps of features and it's amazing for handheld stuff, but it's way more expensive and I can't put an FX9 on a gimbal and like run around like one-handed filming a dance class, for example. It's just not practical. I need a massive gimbal and an easy rig, and like it just wouldn't work for a quick 20-minute film a dance class job. And conversely, a little A6400 or something that would be amazing on a tiny little gimbal, I couldn't rig that out with power and XLR feeds and everything for a concert shoot. So the FX3 and the FX30 were the perfect middle ground for me. Yeah, I don't plan to change or upgrade these cameras anytime soon. And I think they're the most versatile cameras that I could go with for a reasonable price that would do lots of different things.
There you are. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, you might also enjoy the FX3/DJI Osmo Pocket video that I made a few months ago. You can check that out on the channel. You got dirt in your nose. How did you manage that? You also might appreciate the last video, which is all about color grading and film emulation and making digital footage look like film. And if you're new around here, my name's BJ. This channel is all about challenging myself to try things that I am new to and celebrating art and creativity and supporting other artists and creative people. So if you're into any of those things and if you like camera gear like me, there might be something that you'll enjoy on the channel. So I don't know, chuck me a subscribe if you feel like it. It does help out a lot. And let me know if you have any thoughts on this whole gear thing. I feel like a lot of the discourse around camera gear and cameras on the internet is very much from like a short film perspective. And I love short films. I've made many short films. I feel like the video industry is a lot bigger than that. And so there's a lot more applications for cameras than just that one thing. And because of that, there's a lot of different ways to use cameras and equipment. So thank you everyone very much for joining me on this adventure. I hope it was helpful and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. I gotta fill this hole in now.